Welcome to the Fruition Factor Podcast. I am your host, Lamika. And on this podcast, I bring you amazing entrepreneurs who I think have a high fruition factor. So on this episode of the Fruition Factor, I have my guest, my entrepreneurial bestie, the best realtor, and I probably said that wrong, in the world, Jessica Townsend. Jessica, what's up? Welcome to the welcome to the Fruition Factor Podcast.
Hey, wherever I am, long as you're in the mix, I'm happy to be here, Lamika. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. How you feeling?
I'm good. Now that I got that intro out of the way, let me just woo-sigh, okay? And we're going to get this conversation started.
All right.
So my first question that I want to ask, which I kind of hinted to it in the beginning, is as an entrepreneur and business owner, do you think you have a high fruition factor?
Wow. That is an interesting question to ask. I think it changes on a daily basis. And today I feel like I'm a mid. So if you're saying a 1 to 8, because 8 is great, I'm probably like a 5.5 on this factor.
Okay. All right. Okay. So it is a sliding scale. So some days you're right. I didn't think about that. Some days it's high and some days it's low. And that's okay.
That's why success lists make a difference. Not to-do list, success list is what helps. So then that way you say if it's a to-do, and that's from a different book that I read out there. But if you have these, you put less pressure on yourself, but it's still from a perspective of a mindset of you want to be successful. So what are the things you could focus on that day? So instead of saying I have a to-do list, I have a success list. And some days my factor may be an 8 and maybe a 10 and maybe a 1 and maybe a -3.
So we are not even a solid 2 minutes in, and you done already dropped something that I was about to write down. And I thought, Lamika, you're recording this. You don't have to stop and write it. Just make yourself a note to go back to your success list. I am actually going to change the title of that, my to-do list. I'm about to change that in my phone to a success list.
Yes, yeah. It makes a difference because you're gonna take the day on with, I know I'm gonna be successful today. How successful am I going to be? I may do one thing, I may do 5 things, but no matter what I do, they're going to get done and I'm going to be success by the end of the day.
That makes, I like that. So that goes right into one of the things that I like to talk about on my YouTube channel, The Real About Entrepreneurship. It's about money, marketing, and mindset. And so we've already gotten to it about mindset. And it sounds like you do have a high fruition factor when it comes to mindset. I know that to be true. Okay.
Okay.
And so how do you manage the highs and lows of entrepreneurship? Because like you said, the fruition factor, sometimes it's high, sometimes it's low, but how do you handle the emotions of being an entrepreneur?
I think the biggest thing I've done now is just add coaching to my life. That was suggested by a cousin who has an entrepreneurial spirit as well. And in that, you talk about things that you may take for granted. So one thing is giving myself some grace. If you were a person, I always say in the world of dating, I don't want a goal seeker. I want a goal achiever. People can say they can seek goals all day, but if you're not achieving anything, you can't rock with me. You could say, "Oh, I want to be this, I want to be that," but what have you done? Let me see this list.
So you just came on here to be Don Staley today. That's what you decided to do. Okay, so come on and preach to me.
Okay. Yeah. So it's grace, but grace is the thing. So there's some days that, I'll say, okay, if you haven't done all the things you wanted to do or you feel like I've done those things, but I get kind of hard on myself, I look back because I have to say, and again, another book I read is sometimes you got to look back to see where you're going to know where you came from. Mm-hmm. If you don't have those marks, then you say, well, what is your judge? What's your judgment level to, the deciding factor there? And so I just tell myself, look back so you can look forward, take an assessment and give yourself grace. There's going to be some days that I'm going to be really successful. Other days, I may not have achieved as many things I wanted to do, or maybe I didn't make as much in my production levels that I wanted and whatnot. And I said, Jessica, you're out here busting your butt, first and foremost. You took a little nap today, or you worked 12 hours today. Give yourself grace because the body has to have it. The mind has to have it. You have to have rest.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's funny because my whole career has always worked remote. And the people closest to me, like, oh, you don't do no work. Da-da-da-da-da. I'm
You work for
like,
yourself.
I'm tired. My mind has been used all day. I need a nap. So
Yes.
I am the queen of taking a nap. I believe in naps because you do need that to be able to recharge. And for me, that part is not even about giving myself grace. It's a part of my daily routine, a nap. I guess I
See,
give myself grace to take a nap.
you do, and but that's your me time. That's your time to refuel, recharge, and
Mhm.
release any tension. You know, I'm all these R's today, but those are things you have to do because they always tell you if you're flying on a plane, if you're traveling with people, put your oxygen mask on first before those you're traveling with. And I have lived by that mantra for years because it's the truth. You can't be on burnout mode and still think you can be productive. Your brain has to recharge. And
Absolutely.
so you're being kind to yourself by putting in that time. I often am thinking I'm not achieving the things I want to do. So I got to just keep going nonstop. And there's a point where you hit that break even and then the law of diminishing returns. Like I can't do anything else. If I do anything else now, it's going to be on the negative side versus the upside. So just stop.
Right. No, and that makes sense. And so you know me to power up. Your girl gets a spark. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes I need a little help to get back going after that nap. So
Yes, yes.
I got my spark here going. I
I
got my
wish I
spark.
had my spark. I don't have cranberry juice, like 100% crayon in here today. But the spark, we're spark heads since 2007 when you introduced me to it. It's the longest addiction ever.
It's the longest addiction ever, and I love it. I keep it on deck. Okay, and we'll drive some miles to go and get it. Okay.
Yes.
Um, one of the things that you mentioned in that you talked about success. So in starting your business, what did success look like before you started? And does that success look the same now that you are in your business?
You try to preach to me. Okay. I think it has changed. It has definitely changed. Initially, what I said year one, because I'm going in my second year of being a full-time realtor since I left corporate America, when I stopped being dual career, I think the thing was, hey, I had a certain dollar amount that I want to make in realized production. That's money in my pocket. And I did not hit that number last year. I was probably about 25,000 short of it. And I just about lost my mind. And then I said, okay, well, do I need to go back and reevaluate that number? So I have that number plus some. I saw the original number that I want to hit plus where I am. And so I have to do my forecast and things of that nature. So I have to look at the factors out there as well. Well, what are the forces that are taking place that are out of your control? What do you have in your control? So if it's not necessarily monetarily, do you need to say, I'm going to expand by X number of clients I'm going to reach out to? Am I going to expand with finding other sources of revenue to come into my pocket that maybe I thought was going to be 100% real estate? You may need to go in and start doing your insurance, or you may need to start doing being a referral agent.
Mhm.
There's different things out there that says your limitations of success are do not have to be they don't have to be limitations, rather they can be endless. I also don't want to be a person who says I'm a jack of all trades, because you want to get that branding so people know Jessica is the realtor extraordinaire and they come to me for that. So I have to be mindful of not expanding too much just to make numbers. So
Mhm.
the vision has changed a little bit. The success level has changed. And I think it's just a matter of saying, here's where you were before. You had that benchmark. That's what number, the word I wanted earlier. So my benchmarks have changed a little bit, but they have gotten more specific in things that I can attain and then still stretch with.
Okay. Being that your idea of success is different now, to me, that
Mhm.
just says you have a high fruition factor. Because most people aren't able to push through
Mhm.
to determine, to know that what that success looks like. It's always a kind of a dream of what they think that success looks like. I like that. She is the realtor extraordinaire. She is definitely that. Okay, listen, if you are looking for a realtor in the DMV area or even in the Texas area, it's Jessica. Okay, tell y'all firsthand experience. She legit, y'all. Okay.
Thank you.
She is legit. Best experience ever. I have worked with a lot of realtors, and Jessica is the shiznit. Okay.
Thank you.
So that's what's up. So that I like the idea that it's always a moving thing. Cause I know when I first started my business, it was with the many that I have had.
Guess which one? Yes.
Which one? I'll speak particularly to Height Goddess which is my lifestyle brand for tall women. My when I initially started, my idea of success would have been to get my clothes into a Macy's, a Nordstrom, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
But now that is not, while I did achieve, being able to be selected for the workshop at Macy's,
Mhm.
understanding that that wasn't the success that I wanted. It was something completely different. And I wouldn't have realized that had I not moved forward with with my goal and selling direct to customer. So I like that idea of, success being different.
That's very real because, on the outside looking in, I've been there to witness the things you've done. And I thought that was huge. You being in the boutique in Dallas and then being in Macy's and whatnot. I
Now
was like,
that
oh,
one is huge. Being in the boutique in Dallas, to me, that is actually it's actually bigger than probably being in a larger retailer.
how so?
Um,
Talk to me. Tell me why.
well, for number one, I was just in there maybe a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago. And I
Mhm.
was eating in the area and I thought, hey, let me go around the corner and check out Indigo 1745. If you're ever in Dallas in the Bishop Arts District, definitely check out Denise and Keith in Indigo 1745. Great boutique. So I was eating in that area and I thought, let me go around the corner and just say hello because I haven't seen them in a while. And
Mhm.
so I go in there, she's like, hey, we were just talking about you. People come here all the time asking like, is your stuff going to come back in here? And she sends me messages all the time and she does ask me that. And so I'm a personal relationship type of person. And
Mhm.
so the personal relationship and how I was able to do different things with High Goddess, I know I wouldn't have been able to do that if I had been in a Macy's or if I had been in a Nordstrom. While I would love to be in a Nordstrom,
Mhm.
being able to get my footing in a smaller boutique, I like that. I like that idea and the closeness that I was able to ask questions of other brands that they shop with, how those brands, process different things. So that's why to me it's bigger than, being in some of the
Yeah.
major retailers.
So I don't want to throw you off, but that's a good point that you made about you've had the experience between a large retailer and a smaller retailer. Uh, for me, when I first got into real estate, I started with a smaller brokerage and they had 30 something people at one point in time, but I met them through when nobody would call me back for looking for a place to rent up here. And I stayed with them. I learned how to be gritty and really get into real estate that way. And now with a larger broker, and so it's interesting how the dynamic is very different. There's a lot of good things that I get with the larger broker, and there's a lot of things I also get with the smaller one. So when I start my own in a little bit, because I'm already studying my own broker's exam,
And she gonna
then
get that Texas license. Well, go ahead.
then I can decide in the middle, where do you fit? Because having a larger brokerage is great for the name and the resources you have. But I appreciate that I started with the smaller one because it allowed me to know how to get in there and get dirty. And I say dirty, get my hands dirty by really getting into these transactions.
Mhm.
And my friend said to me the other day, they were like, well, you were doing well with your last brokerage. Do you think you benefited from being with this larger one? And the answer is still yes. It's a matter of I have that experience now to say, I had a voice by learning how my voice would sound in real estate from the smaller brokerage side. I still had big dreams, and now I come to a larger broker. I still have a voice, but it's now I can find out about the technology in the place, the resources. So it's good because it gives me people will come to me and be like, "Well, Jessica, can I work with you?" And
Mhm.
I'll say, "Here's the type of model that I want." So that's a whole different level of fruition that will come to be in about another year and a half or so.
Mhm.
Seeing where I'm going to go with that.
I love that. Well, I think I think for the both of us, because we come from a corporate background, when people come to me and they say, should I keep my day job, as it says in my background, don't quit your day job yet. Okay.
Right.
Especially if you don't have the structure and all that kind of stuff to go and, figure it out on your own. But the part that I want to point out is that I know for me, working in corporate has given me access to tools, access to a lot of different things that if I was just an entrepreneur without having had that corporate experience, it probably would have taken me a lot longer to get to things. And so I
Mhm.
liken that to working with a small broker at first and then coming over to a larger broker. You're able to see the systems and learn it, because so many people I want to do my own thing. I want to be my own boss. Well, I
Right.
mean, you are never your own boss.
No,
Whoever paying you.
that's your boss. I hate to say the word boss, but that is correct.
Right,
You are
right.
still relying on somebody else to help you make it.
Absolutely. And so I always like, because again, that goes back to, it may look one way, but the benefits are different, and you definitely have to try them out. And the path is very curvy as an entrepreneur. I know for me, my goals consistently change.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, my base goals stay the same, but I guess how I go about achieving them is what changes. And when I first started, that bothered me. I thought I wasn't doing what I needed to do, but it
Mhm.
has
Mhm.
taken me, specifically with High Goddess, I started in 2007. It basically took me to 2023 to realize that you're not a failure in this. It's just that you got to do different tactics. Because for a
Mhm.
minute there, I was like, "Girl, you do not know what you're doing." I don't know what I do. I do not. That's still clear. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. But but I am okay having to pivot, and it being okay having to pivot. How is pivoting for you? How have you had to pivot in your business? I know you mentioned one where you've gone from a smaller broker to a larger broker, but what are some other ways, even from a marketing perspective, that you've had to pivot in your business?
Yeah, no, that's huge. You and I talk often about marketing, and I think I've had moments where I want to be hesitating with it. You have these, I call them pandemic agents, where they boomed in 2021, 2022, when they're like, I'm going to come on Instagram and just do some post and some little wonky little din, 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 with the words popping up, and think they're going to sell homes. And I
And
wasn't
a
hating
lot of them
on.
stole homes because it was so easy.
They did. They did. You just walk outside, you got somebody falling there, right? So I looked at that, and it wasn't a matter of like I'm hating on them. I just said, let me take note of this. Where do I fall within my marketing? And I said, it's not organic for me to do that. And you and I've talked about this ad nauseum about it, because I said, I want to fit in. I don't want to miss that demographic that may be a little younger than me to get it. But I also, knowing my age and gender, because a lot of times, I may have some clients that flock to me because they relate. They're like, oh, you're a woman of a certain age, I get what you're saying.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to call that certain group to me, but doesn't mean that I can ignore the others, because there's still a lot that I can get from the younger people and people who are older than me, in addition to the
Mhm.
age range that I'm in. So I've learned to go back in and say, well, let's find this sweet spot. And I'm still working on it. Someone told me the other day that they really appreciate it, as a client of mine, that I did a video and I had it playing and I just read the description. She's like, I just wanted to hear your voice. I heard you talking about. I was like, me, my voice. And so I appreciate that. She's like, I watched it a few times.
Mhm.
And then I'll see other things where she mentioned, she's like, people just walk through the house and they're not saying anything. So, excuse me, trying to find that line of what makes sense and how often do you do it, watch the statistics to see the metrics and the analytics behind it, and say, okay, you're doing well with this type of video. Even if you being on the treadmill, 95,000, fine. I want to utilize this now. I'm shooting for 100,000, and I have that same video on every little thing I have, every category out there, because I need to be popping into people's minds, even to be on the treadmill.
On a marketing note, you need to take that same video and remix it and put it at the beginning of another video where you giving them some real tea. I think that's what you need to do, because
Yes,
that
yes.
treadmill video is a hit.
It is. And I sit there and I used to get frustrated about it. And I said, Jessica, embrace it. So my pivot right there is embrace it. What are you doing to get the eyes? And then there'll be some times I do some trendy things and whatnot. So marketing is one thing I'm constantly working on. I said, you're paying for Canva, you need to utilize it. The good thing about having a larger brokerage is, again, I have those tools in place. So for instance, with my old brokerage, everything was a la carte. And I didn't put signs in the yard. I didn't do just listed and just sold and things of that nature. I've actually gotten a client who saw me sell a house very quickly. She's like, I saw when you put it up on the market, I saw when you wanted a contract, and I saw when you sold it. And then I got your notice in the mail. I kept it. So little things like that. So the marketing print is still going to be there. My thing is this is Instagram, Facebook, all those places on social media platforms can be really great, but you also don't want to miss the thing of the simple word of mouth and the gift of gab that I have, and just asking for the elevator pitch and just putting yourself out there. So the marketing is a huge thing. The other pivot is, if it's not making sense, don't do it. If you're spending too much money on it and it's not yielding any reward for you, then you need to stop. But sometimes you have to put the time in or the money in to see that's not going to yield for you. And if it does, then increase that amount.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I like that. I will be letting go of an app when we finish this recording. I have tried and I have tried to make it work, and it is not working. But
all your life you had to fight.
All my life I had to fight. Okay, there is so much in that from a marketing perspective, well, from as someone who knows several realtors, and I'm gonna say it wrong, so Jessica's gonna correct me, but it's all good. Okay. As someone who knows many realtors, know people that buy homes and the questions that they ask and the realtors that they're working with, because their realtor is their friend and that realtor friend is not competent, that is not Jessica. Okay. Legitimately, a lot of times what I envision of a realtor is just somebody to let me in the door. Cause I was like, oh, girl, I can get myself in the door. I don't need nobody to open the door for me. I literally said that. And then, and it led me to realize that you are very different than the other realtors that are out there in educating the client beyond just the house that they're buying right now, but their whole financial picture, to make sure, for lack of a better word, these fools ain't buying $1 million house and they don't make but $40,000. You know what I'm saying?
Facts. Yes. Yes.
Or they trying to buy, because they're not finna give it to you. They trying to buy $1 million house and they don't make but 40,000 between the two of them. It's coming.
The two of them. Yes.
The two of them. Okay. How thought that was gonna happen? Okay. I don't know how y'all thought it was gonna happen. But you are very realistic in giving expectations to the clients and just providing them a whole financial picture, which I think is also beneficial for your background prior to being a realtor. Is another reason why I think people should, totally link up with you as a realtor. And even if they're not directly, even if you're not their direct realtor, allowing you to refer them to somebody who somewhat has the same philosophy that you have in regards to how they work with their clients. So I'm gonna keep giving her kudos, y'all, because I'm just saying I got firsthand experience, and it's good.
No, I appreciate that, because my thing is there are plenty realtors out there, as you mentioned. They're not all the same. And just like someone may think, hey, maybe I'm too direct in my approach. My friends always like, it's not, my mom's always said it back in the day, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Another friend says, you drop so much knowledge out there, but you may speak so quickly at times that people think you may be trying to get over them and you're actually looking out for them. So then I have to say, okay, training background, speak to the level of the lowest learner, so they can understand what I'm saying. And so I don't want to come off condescending or anything of that nature, because the last thing I want to do is push somebody away. I want to be that realtor that gives the refreshing face and the experience. I had a client who's relocating here from out of state. And he said he's not a first-time home buyer. He'll be first time with me. And he said, you have already set the standard well beyond what these other people have done for you in the past. He said, we've spent time, we've gone over numbers. I've asked him, how long do you want to be in this house? Okay, you may think you like this house, but let's look at the surrounding area here. What is your disposition of this house? Are you going to be a landlord here? Are you going to sell it? I said, because you have 50, 11 steps in here. I didn't say that, but there's a lot of steps. And there may be some other things around the neighborhood that are not going to be as attractive to someone who says, if this is a different place, I would like it. So let's not limit your buyers from there or your tenants, because this is not your forever home. So what can we do for you to get your enjoyment and then be able to dispose of that? And then just the conversation because I love numbers. As much as I have a challenge with those back in the day, I loved English.
And that's why she my girl, because who don't love numbers is me. Okay.
But it's one of those things that I had to increase my fruition factor not to fail those tests for algebra back in the day. Okay. And so now what challenged me has now grown me. Right? Can I say grown me? It's enhanced me, whatever you're going to call it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've left English and now I've gone over to math. All right. But with it, because it was so difficult and I embraced it, and I realized that a lot of people are afraid of math. They're afraid of basic things that we have amplified because the way it's presented to us. And I think, as I think this out loud, it's the same thing with real estate. You have some people who have simplified it so much so that we're just people who open doors and close doors. But no, I'm one that says, let me take a complicated concept and make it be simply simplified to understand. It is, let's find the location. Let's find the house that meets your needs. Let's look at the disposition. Let's look at this as your financial portfolio. How is it going to be with you in the next years? Do we need to structure this to get a 2-1 buy down? Do we need to do this to where you're getting a concession over here? So that it's something that is going to make sense for you and that you're going to be in the house and not out the house because you can't afford it.
Oh, baby. Ooh, child. I am that person with the math. I'm the girl over here like, ooh. I ain't playing spades because I ain't ready to count them cards in front of everybody. You know what I'm saying? I'm that person. I'm not getting ready to play dominoes because I'm not finna sit here and try to figure out this while everybody looking at me. Just not my thing. Okay. So I get it. That is definitely very challenging. And obviously in the field that you're in, especially as a realtor, have been it's been in the news a lot with the commissions and that kind of thing. Is that something you can speak to? Do you want to speak to it?
Sure. I'm not going to run from the truth. They've asked us not to make public statements out there about these things, but I can just tell you, in Maryland, DC, Virginia, we've had what's called buyer agency agreements or seller agency agreements in place. And that is what permits you to represent a buyer. And let's talk from that perspective. It's a protection that says, look, you could go out there and try and get a house without an agent and do it on your own. People do it all the time. But why not bring someone in who can know the market, who can help you stay away from those pitfalls, and be able to not just open the doors for you, but educate you in this market, et cetera. And there's a fee to that. We don't work for free. So it became an issue. And I had to catch myself saying it years ago is I work for free until I get paid. No. My service, there's a value with my service. And we have to make sure that if you're going to be earning this commission, whether it's as a buyer's agent or a seller's agent, there's a level of expectation that you're going to be bringing a service to the table and that you're going to be just and honest and transparent in that. So if you say, hey, can you list my house for 1%? I will say to you, well, what do you think you're going to get for 1%? And that's probably me being too crass with somebody, too brass or whatever you're going to call it. Because I'm going to have to market your home. I'm going to have to do some negotiations for you, things of that nature. And so we just say, look, in order to represent you as a buyer, we do need to have this in place. Otherwise, if I don't have a buyer agency agreement in place, I represent the seller. That means I can't negotiate for you. And so we just simply say, look, here it is. There is no set amount of commissions. That's where people have messed up. Commissions have always been an ethical thing. So you can't say it's broadcasted out there. People say, well, don't you charge 6%? And in the brokerage, we've always said it is on a case by case, basis. And so the level of expectation is, these are the things I'm going to do for you. Here's how I earn this commission. And the hope is that the transparency will be there, because the greatest change coming up, and I am a little nervous about it, is when you cannot advertise the buyer's agents or the buyer broker's commission in the MLS. That's going to require you to pick up the phone and ask, or it had to be posted somewhere else other than your MLS. So I do get a little bit of nervousness with that, because I feel like there's transparency right now within it by having it advertised. Hopefully that'll be shifted later on So to answer your question the most succinctly, too late for that now, is there's no shift for us in my market because we've been having buyer agency agreements in place. There are other people that have come into the state that won't sign one. And I always say, I won't take you out until I can have that agreement, because that's saying it's a level of trust. You're trusting me to take you out. I am working here for you. I'm driving out here doing all these things. I want to have this level of understanding that I'm going to be negotiating for you. And there's a service to that. If the agent said, the seller says, I don't want to pay a commission, because they've never been forced to pay a buyer's commission. It's always that, it's been, the expectation is, hey, I'm going to assume in this case that a seller is going to be putting into consideration what a commission may be charged. And then, but I can't tell a seller, you're going to be 8%, you're going to be 5%. No, it's what do you think is reasonable in this type of transaction to bring buyers to the table as I market your home, negotiate for you and everything else. And we can't even say the industry standard is X. So it really is a conversation. Did I answer your question?
No, yeah, you did answer my question. I mean, obviously, I've heard about it, but I don't know the inner workings of it. It's always been for me to vet the realtor that I work with so that I am getting a quality service. So I haven't so much, this goes back to me and my numbers. I haven't so much looked at, not paying them the total of a 6% between the buyer and the seller agent. So that's never been, I guess it's never really been a big deal for me, because most of the time the selling agent that I've worked with, if I've had an agent, the seller agent that I work with, I know kind of their experience. And then if I haven't had a good experience with them, then I just don't go back and haven't gone back and use them. And speaking specifically with my investment properties.
When you say selling agent, you mean like that is the true language of being the buyer's agent?
Right. Meaning me as a person that's selling the property,
okay,
the sellers, the agent that I have hired to be my seller's agent. Am I saying that right?
So here's the thing. So the misnomer is this: whenever you are the agent that represents the seller, that's the listing agent. The selling agent is the one that's selling the home to the buyer. The buyer's
so the selling agent is the buyer's. Oh, got you. Yeah, listing
That's
agent.
why I was like, let me ask you a question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Listing agent. Yeah. So I've been very because I ain't gonna lie. For me, a listing agent, I'm like, child, that's easy money. You just list a property. You ain't getting into a whole lot of work. That's easy. That was always kind of my thought process of a listing agent.
Okay.
And then even from and from a buyer standpoint, I guess the buyer's agent in my head, that's what it's called.
AKA the selling agent. That is correct.
AKA the selling agent. Okay, the selling agent, the person who chooses them needs to make sure that they are, I guess, competent in being able to help them for their particular situation.
All of that. Do you remember we spoke earlier last year and we had a conversation about knowing how to sell your home at the right price? As a listing agent, you want to make sure that you're going to market it, that you know the trends of people having concessions out there, what's the price, where the comps. So that's all that due diligence that has to be done, because if the agent, you want that agent to work for that commission. It's the agents that work for it that make it look good for us in the industry that are actually earning it. It's the ones that sit back and don't do anything. Even the ones that say, hey, it's a new construction, I'll just sign up I'll show them at the table. No, you want to be there as an advocate. And I think it's those few people that have made it look bad out there who have said, here's our standard on X. And like they didn't give them a choice, or they didn't have any transparency in it. And they may have just skirted right past the legalese. And you can't do that kind of thing.
Yeah. And to me, that I feel like in my experience, when you do that, when I was going back to having that personal relationship, that's you building your pipeline. Because like you said earlier, if this isn't your forever home, let's talk about the things. And then I had a good experience. So when I go to buy my next home, you're the person that I'm going to call. So I think it's short-sighted to not work in the best interest of your client, whether it's new construction or whether it's an existing home or that kind of thing. And I think so many times we were just trying to make the money. We're not thinking about the long-term play of what that client at the time can be for you
Right.
versus, just thinking about that. So
People have to, I'll say this last thing because I don't want to get us too stir off, but people have to keep in mind, what are you trying to achieve here?
mhm,
Someone wants to buy a home, someone wants to sell a home. They want to get the best for their investment, whether it's being on the selling side or the buying side. You cannot put yourself ahead of your client. When you're sitting there, you're like, I've only made $5 today. By the time you take that whole money, that money you've made over the past few months, and you break it down, if you work 40 hours, I made $5 today, right? You cannot put yourself ahead of someone. That's when people mess up, is that this greed thing kicks in, and you have to be an ethical person. So it's transparency, saying, look, if somebody says, oh, I'm going to charge you 6%, well, then on one side,
mhm,
then justify this to me,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
Let me see what we're having here. You can't put yourself ahead of them for your own, well, I need to make this. So just like if somebody says, well, if they elect not to pay, so it says, I don't want to pay a commission here, then you have to say, okay, buyer, now we could be exposed with, now it's going to be more difficult for you all, and that it's going to cost you more money, your down payment, your closing costs, and now you have to come up with some money for this, the selling agent's commission.
Mhm,
So that's a lot of money to come
mhm,
out there. So
mhm,
then as a listing agent, you have to say, okay, Mr. and Miss Seller, or they, them seller, whoever it's going to be, do you want to pay a selling agent's commission? Here's where you will get from that. And so someone may look and be like, it's only doing 1% here or nothing here. Then there's going to be the probability that that home may sit in the market a little bit longer, because people are looking at that. And because again, nobody works for free. If you've been
mhm,
working with the person that I've done for 2 years, and you've been meeting them all these places and you haven't done anything, I told somebody, I said, on a post out there, I said, would you like to work for 2 years and not receive any income?
mhm.
When you work your 40-hour job or whatnot, you're expected to get paid in 2 weeks
Nah.
or a month or whatever, right? So I had to put out there, like I said, I said, we are people who are working off of hope. There are
Mhm,
some people that will say, I'm going to charge a fee, and that's up to what's in that agreement. If they're going to charge a fee for, taking them out to do showings for like rentals or whatever it's going to be. So
mhm.
there is various levels, but that's where I'll leave for now.
Okay. No, and that's very helpful in understanding the process. Now, to circle back to, I guess, one of my success mindset questions
Mhm.
is, on a previous episode, on a previous conversation that you and I had, you talked about an action and plan isn't an action plan if they don't work together.
That's correct.
Listen, I rewind that so many times to be like, boy, she hit me with that one. Tell me more about that, because I am all about taking action, because so many times people say, oh, I want to do this. Oh, I want to do this. And this is, I want to say this. This is the very reason, not the very reason, but one of the many reasons why I'm not a coach, why don't have a course or anything, because I'm the type of person, if you tell me that you want to achieve something, I tend to be way more all in than the person that said they wanted to do it. And then I'd
Mm-hmm.
be over here mad and ready.
Yes.
Be like, but
Yes.
you said so. So I'm a big person on taking action. I will follow up on, like, what your goals are and that kind of thing. And so tell me about, it's not an action plan if the two don't come together.
I mean, there's dreams, there's hoop dreams, there's action plans, right? You can
Mm-hmm.
plan, like they say, you can plan to fail easily
Mm-hmm.
too if you don't take the action.
True.
So I think that you have to be methodical and very specific and intentional in what you're going to be doing. So I think that you have to draft it out. You need to make it be executable. If it's not executable, then you're not really doing anything but sitting out there just writing in the clouds. So
Mm-hmm.
when you look at those goals or there's actions to take and said, okay, what are achievable steps I can take? Even have to chunk it out. If the goal is to make, let's say, $100,000 in a year, wherever it is you're doing, then what is the plan to get there? Well, how many, in this case, homes does it take on an average price to achieve that? How, then you have to drill it down. Well, how many people do you have to talk to? and how many times I have to go out and do these different events and how much I have to spend to do that. So if I'm sitting there just doing all this great planning, but I'm not actually taking the steps, which is the action, then all I have is a well thought out plan, but it's not an action plan. It's just a bunch of goals, which goes back to my, are you a goal seeker or a goal achiever? Have you taken those steps and the actionable items and actually check these things off? Because again, you can plan all day, but if you don't take those steps, like I can think about, look at my scale. Ooh, I'm gonna lose 50 pounds in this year, but I'm still eating cupcakes. That's not the right action. Okay. What am I doing to move the direction of that? Right. I can sit there and say, okay, well, Jessica, if you really want to lose 50 pounds, what does that look like? Let's chunk this out. And somebody had to remind me that it's easier to hit smaller goals, milestones versus a big one, because it can be very daunting. And I think that's the same in anything we have. It's chunk it out to make it be realistic and attainable, so that every time you've achieved something, you go to your success list. I check that off. And now here's the next thing to get to the next part of the goal.
I like that. Now I got to give a shameless plug for the Fruition Factor Action Planner.
Oh, yes, you do.
Because that is the one thing that in that planner, I know for me, I did that planner because I was creating planners. I've been creating planners for myself for years. I went back to one that oh my God, a paper one that I had printed out. And that has always been the challenge, is we have this large, let's just say I want to sell $100,000. I want to sell $100,000, in revenue for High Goddess. But I haven't chunked it down into the smaller pieces, and I'm seeing this bigger goal, and it can be so daunting that if I just broke it down into smaller pieces and put an action towards the plan that I have,
correct,
then it makes it way easier. And that's one of the things that I've done with the Fruition Factor Action Planner, which is specifically for entrepreneurs and business owners, so that you can take that bigger goal and break it down into an annual goal, to a quarterly goal, into a monthly goal, into what am I getting ready to do this week, into what am I getting ready to do today.
Exactly.
Because so many people talk about the bigger goal, but they don't talk about the action, the daily things that you have to do in order to achieve that, which is why I hate January, because everybody's like, what's your goals? Girl, stop.
Make it another day.
Right. I told action.
Well, I told a friend one day, he's a personal trainer, he has his own business. And I said to him, and when I speak to others, oftentimes I'll speak back to myself. I said, Jessica, you can't be giving this great information. You're not applying it yourself. And I told him, I said, yes, you have this goal of X, Y, Z, but don't forget the milestones you've achieved. Celebrate those things. And it's hard because if you say, I want to get 10 things done by X amount of time, and you're only at number 1, but then you got up to 5, well, you're looking back. Look at the things you've already done to get there. If you didn't celebrate those moments, then all you're going to keep doing is have a defeatist mindset of, I'm not seeing this to fruition. I'm not close to my goal. You are. And hopefully if you made some pivots during that time frame, you did that because you're like, look, maybe I thought I was going to be this by number 7 by this time. Where did I get stuck? And how can I make that time up? Because I'm sure there are probably some good delays in there that have prevented you from getting somewhere too soon. Or you may have been like, I kind of slowed down with this. But let's not forget to celebrate the small milestones, because if not, all you're doing is piling on and you'll feel like I haven't achieved anything.
Absolutely. And enjoying the journey. That's the biggest part. I think that's probably one of what success looks like then and what it looks like now is we're always looking at the end goal, but we're not enjoying the journey of when we get to the end goal. And then a lot of times people get to the end goal and they be like, oh, I thought this was going to feel different.
Right. Yeah. I'll say this, is that you look at a book, that book doesn't get read unless you open the book and start turning the pages. Those weights don't get picked up unless you don't get the muscle in your arms unless you actually pick up the weights and go through the stretching and the pulling and the recovery from it. So that all requires inertia. That's the energy we have in us. That's the things you have to get the action going. So again, you can write the biggest plan out there, but it's going to take those steps, that commitment the follow through to increase that fruition factor, be like, hey, to get to your point, that's all I did this. Like, how did I get here?
Mm-hmm. 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 I like it. I like it. I like it. Okay. Now, before I go, one thing that we haven't touched on since we've been talking, I told you we talk about mindset, marketing, and money. Okay. One of the biggest questions that people always ask when they're starting a business is, how did you fund your business to start?
I was let me give you a real answer because I'll say something real stupid. Excuse me.
I was like, don't say that, because our friend Brandy gonna be like, no, why you say
You know it. She was like, really? I was like, I was on Harry Hines. No. What happened is I had a plan, right? And I
that?
had to put action behind that plan, which was stack my chips. So because I was dual career, I was able to say the money that I was earning from both of the jobs, especially the real estate, put that to the side so that it will be there when I need that nest egg. I also said maintain your credit because you're going to need to have great credit to pull you through for different things at any point in time. I didn't want to carry a lot of debt. So any debts I had, I said, let me pay those off. So it's a matter of you don't need a car note, you don't need this, you don't need that. And then I actually went back and said, well, what do you need? Just get rid of the fat. Let's get to making being a very lean diet. So I started off by saying, here's the money I have to the side, and that's going to be there, or other resources I have from like old 401ks and things of that nature. You have to be kind of smart and savvy with this. And I know that there have been people who have been entrepreneurs and they'll say they had $0 in the end because they put so much into it. And you have to be savvy. So when you know that you're going to start doing your own business, you can't be out there just having these crazy expenditures because, especially in a sales business, you are going all the ebbs and the flows. What are you going to do if it takes you 5 months before you get a transaction to close, but you've been working with people for the past, year? You have to be prepared for that. And I think the other thing I learned too is you got to talk to others who have been doing this to see some of the tricks of the trade out there. You have to learn, well, what can I do? Is there a line of credit out there? Now you're in this business, right? So now my new thing has been, okay, you don't have that secondary income now. Now you're out here living off of what you thought. Go back and look at your numbers. So I had to go back and say, how much did you make last year? What did you do? Well, it was the grace of God that I made it. And then now, thank you. What can we do with this adjustment? How much do you need to say, can I trim any other fat here? Do I need to go find some other sources here to do that? Can I do some referrals? Can I add on an additional line of business? What is it? So that way you know your base number, because you have to go back in and do the reconciliation to say, okay, it cost me X number of dollars in MLS fees, this much in marketing, this much in gas, this much in this. What is my baseline? And then from that point to say, okay, well, how much more do I need as a cushion? And that's why I'm very thankful that I did maintain excellent credit during this time frame so that I could go and get that business line of credit to help say, okay, well, if you're going to be paying these over here and you have this credit card, and I'm just being real with you, these are the things you cannot be at your max if you were going to try and keep your business afloat. Because you have to learn how to, while they say net 30, these businesses are like, hey, here's this is due in 30 days. If you were operating your business where it's net 1, you are already at a deficit. So you have to have enough there to carry you from day to day, check to check, month to month, because it could be many months before you get your next commission check coming in.
I like that. I like that. As you were talking through that, it just made me realize um how I have watched you from your first property through, what's this, property number 5?
Or
4? I've watched you by your first home to your 4th home, and you have always been diligent in your numbers and in your process. And isn't so for me, that's just a testimony that it's not just you and what you tell your clients, but these are things that you've actually done for yourself as you've built your real estate portfolio and what you've actually done to buy a home yourself, which is why I think you are good at what you do, because you've actually done it for yourself. And baby, she could work a budget and a worksheet. Like, right? I called her today. I was like, hey, can you send me a worksheet? Because who will pay for an invoice when somebody call and say, hey, can you send me 1,500? I'll be like, oh, okay.
Right.
Them days are over, people.
Yes.
I was so proud of myself. Yeah, them days are over.
You have to be diligent, because the thing is, if you don't keep up with it, people just like, I ate 3,000 calories today. What did I eat? A bunch of M&Ms. They're empty, right? You're getting this. Are you full? You still have to be able to make it the next day. And I know I'm saying in very plain terms, but we can relate it to different things.
Hey, that's real talk. Because when my parents knew not to give me cereal going to school, baby, that's empty calories. Your girl is hungry before we get out the driveway. Okay.
Yes.
I'm gonna need some grits, some oatmeal. I'm gonna need something that's gonna stick to me by the time these people give me my first snack. Okay?
Yes.
So I get it.
And that's why I don't mind. And so I know we got to stop, because we can keep going on forever. I will just say that's the beauty that I've had to learn how to share little lessons with my clients. Most of my clients that I work with, a lot of females, a lot of women who are single, a little younger than me, but I don't exclude anyone. So I have clients from different ethnicities and genders, etc., different walks of life, as they say. But when I tell them, if you listen to me, I said, look, I've been rock bottom. I've been where one of my girls laughed at me. The creditors would call me, you'll get it when I get it. Okay. So now it's like, well, what did you do? And I had to really be very diligent. I had to go through some changes out there to realize I don't want to be at the bottom again. And that if you trust me, I've had somebody tell me, oh, you'll never buy a house. And I said, don't tell me what I can't do, Mr. Originator in Dallas. Well, I'm going to show you, sir. And I said, 4 houses later, boo boo. Okay. So those are the things when I relate to my clients and they're willing to listen to me, I have to find that right amount of sharing with them. But they understand there's a human component to me and that I'm here to help them. And so when I push them to say, look, no, this is the house you need to move on, or I don't really think that's a home for you, there's a reason there. But all I can do is I can lead you to the trough, but I can't make you drink.
That makes total sense. All right. That was a good one. So as we end this, tell the listeners, the viewers, how they can connect with you, what's the name of your business? Because we've been talking this whole time and never said the name of your business. So tell us your social media handles and how people can get in touch with you.
Yes, my website is townsendrealtyservices.com. You can find me just by doing that out there. You can find me on Instagram as Jessica Townsend Realtor. Same as on TikTok. On YouTube, it's Jessica Townsend Realtor. You can watch my videos from all sorts of videos out there. And LinkedIn, I don't really change my name. I want to be found. So I'm here to help you. My number's out there publicly, so just contact me. And if you are not in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, to Lamika's point, I do have a great network as the natural networker. I will make sure I vet out the agents to make sure they're a good fit for you, because I don't just believe in putting money with anybody. I want to make sure you're going to get the best of the best. And you can't have 100%. Me, you can have the next best.
You are right. That is 100% been my experience. So you guys go and check out Jessica Townsend Realty Services.com.
Nope. Townsend Realty Services.
TownsendRealtyServices.com.
Put some respect on my name, girl.
Yeah, my bad. You know what I'm saying? My bad. I be getting it wrong. It's the Real About Entrepreneurship on the Fruition Factor Podcast. And I appreciate you guys listening and watching another episode with a dope entrepreneur. And until the next time, peace.